Hi, I'm Matt from Toby Tarot. Welcome back to another monthly book chat. So today I want to talk to you about my very small Stephen King collection. Okay, now I'm not a huge Stephen King fan. I need to qualify that though. I was a huge Stephen King fan. When I was much younger, Stephen King was like one of those authors that you just read. You had to read. So I would get all his books, and I would read basically everything. That was up until the book It. And after It, I put my toe in the water because I wasn't very happy with the stuff he was writing. It started to get more psychological than actually scary, like spooks and vampires and end of the world scenarios, and clowns, of course. And I just kind of moved away from reading Stephen King. So it wasn't like a boom, I'm not going to read him anymore. I read Gerald's Game, and I think I read Rose Madder and those sort of books, and I just wasn't that impressed. I started to find that he became like a little sausage machine. And even today, I walked into a bookstore the other day, and he's got a new book out, and I just feel that he just seems to be churning these things out. It's not like the old days where he would do a book and then there would be like a whole year's wait, or sometimes even longer before his next book would come out. So I just stopped reading him, and moved on to other stuff. Also, a person's taste changes. So the small collection that I have is the books that I would reread way more than once, because to my mind, and I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I only have 6 Stephen King books. But to my mind, these are, for me, the ones that bring back a lot of memories from way back when I first read them. And also they are phenomenal books. I don't think Stephen King can actually beat these books. That's just my personal opinion. You have your favorites. These ones that I'm going to show you are kind of my favorites that I will read and reread, which is why I went to spend quite a bit of money on them. Okay, so the very first one is a book called The Stand. Okay, I'm sure you can all see that. The Stand. Now, this is quite a reissue. Okay, obviously these are all reissues. Obviously, none of them are hardcover or originals. And having read this particular book 3 times, it's still in pretty good condition. Which means that it's very well put together, even if it is a little soft paperback thing. And I'm sure you all know, The Stand is a substantial book. It's really huge. It's like it's almost, when you start reading this book, it's like starting Lord of the Rings, the one book version, okay, with all the 3 books put into one. So it really is, it's one of those books that you have to commit to for a long time. So if you're going to read this, you're not going to do it in a week, okay? Maybe you will. I don't know. I don't believe that you could read this book in 1 week and get everything out of it. So you've got to really commit if you want to read this. And it is a lovely book. I'm not going to go through what the books are about. You go and Google them or have a look if you don't know. But this is definitely one of my all-time favorites. And this is the full version. With this book, you get 2 different versions. One is like I call the director's cut, which is this one. It's the full enchilada, the whole enchilada. Then there's one that has some parts that were edited out in the one book to make it smaller. But this is like the 800-page full book. Okay, so that's the one. It's The Stand, one of my absolute all-time favorite Stephen King's. Then, of course, I have It. Another one of my all-time favorites. I'm probably one of the very few people that was very unimpressed with the new movie with that Skarsgård guy as It. I think it's also because I'm really old and decrepit, and I watched the original mini-series, which was absolutely awful, but it did have Tim Curry as It, and I don't think anyone's ever going to beat Tim Curry as It. So yeah, Pennywise. So here it is, lovely version. Again, I've read this a few times. I haven't read this particular book that I'm holding. I haven't actually read this one because it's brand new. This is like literally brand new. It's the same publishing house. In fact, all of these are by the same publishing house, which is I can't see here. Anyway, they're all the same publishing house. So it, as you know, is about the creepy clown who's actually a spider. Oh God, I hope I didn't spoil that for anybody. But another one of my fave books, I have read it a number of times, and I absolutely love it. I, as I say, did not like the Skarsgård version of it. I think he's just too weird and too, I don't know, maybe he appeals to a different generation. And yes, I do admit that the film, the original miniseries, is terrible when I look at it now. It's so dated, but I love it. It's nostalgic, as is this book. So this is probably not the best place to start if you're starting with Stephen King, as is The Stand, because of the sheer weight of this book. Again, you have to really commit some time when you start reading this. This is nail-biting, gripping stuff. Okay, right from the opening scene. All right, so that's it. So I've got The Stand and I've got it. Then I have, I'm going to save my two best ones, my two faves for last. Then I've got a book called The Shining. Okay, now I'm sure everybody knows about The Shining. This is the version that's a tie-in to Dr. Sleep, and I'll get to that in a minute. I must be honest, when I saw the film version of The Shining, and I saw the Stanley Kubrick version of The Shining, which is very vastly different to the book, and I also have the mini-series of The Shining, which is far more like the book. It sticks far more to the book. When I saw those two films, I honestly remembered this book as being as big as this. Okay, I thought it was like that size. And when I ordered it and I bought it, and this little thing came, I was like, no, that can't be the book. It's impossible. And you can see the writing is pretty average. But I was like, no, it can't be. And then I realized that this is actually quite a concise little book. It's not some massive sprawling epic. That is why I think I really like this as one of Stephen King's top books. Not because it's the most famous, but because it's just very concise, and unlike the actual movie versions, it moves along quite quickly. Okay, so that is one of my faves. Okay, so I've got this, and then I had to go, obviously because I got this book, I had to go and buy this. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. This Dr. Sleep, now a major motion picture, the #1 bestseller. And I like it because it's the same sizes, so I put them together. See, they kind of go together like that. All right. I haven't read this. I haven't seen the film. I know what it's about. It's kind of about some gang that sucks souls or something. And I know that it's the sequel where the little red rum boy, I forget what his name is, he comes back as an adult in this. I haven't seen the movie, haven't read the book, only read the blurb, and I don't know when I'm going to read the book, but I have got it, I've bought it, and this is the only modern Stephen King book that I have, a later book than it. Okay, so I've got Dr. Sleep, and I've got that, and as I say, the only reason I bought this Dr. Sleep is because of The Shining. Okay, so I've got those two. Now my two absolute favorite Stephen King books of all time. And I know people are gonna diss me for this one, but I'm gonna leave my very, very favorite to last. So one of my absolute favorites is a book called Salem's Lot. Again, quite a thick-ish book, very average-sized book. I think also because it's such a small little copy, you know, it's not. This I absolutely cherish. I love this story, and I haven't read this particular book, this that I've got in my hand, but I have read this like 4 times, and I've seen the movie, and I've got the miniseries, and I'm obsessed with this story. And the weird thing is I don't really like vampires. I'm not a huge vampire kind of fan. I'm more sort of monsters and, you know, creature from the bog and that sort of thing. But this book is so cool. It's about a bunch of vampires, well, a vampire that kind of moves into this place called Salems Lot, this city or village, not city, a little village, like a little town called Salems Lot. And it's about this young guy who goes and he kind of vanquishes the vampire. And the vampire in this is just so cool. He's a really cool vampire. He's not one of those like caped vampires and, you know, he sucks the virgin's neck. This is kind of, think 30 Days of Night, and you'll understand the vampire in this. And the vampire is actually based on a very classical vampire called Nosferatu. Don't even get me started. Okay, this book, I love this book. I cherish it with all my heart, and it's a book that I will reread and reread until the day I die. So that's my Stephen King Salem's Lot book. And I kind of like the cover art. Look, it does give one of the plot points away if you look carefully. But anyway, it's a really cool book. And then my ultimate, absolute favorite Stephen King book. You think I'm going to say Misery, don't you? Because that's a really cool one. Or you think I'm going to say Firestarter, don't you? That's an okay one. What about Carrie? It's all right. My absolute favorite, and I know you're going to disagree with me, but that is Pet Sematary. I love this book. I love the book. This cover is amazing, okay? And if you don't know the story, if you haven't seen the movies or read the book, this cover will kind of explain something to you, plot point. But I've seen both films, the original 1980s one, the one done in the 80s. Loved it, have it. Most frightening film I've ever seen. Forget The Exorcist. This film was, oh, I get goosebumps when I think about it. The book, I can't read this book at night. It's too scary. It's really, really, really well written. It moves along at a really quick pace. And the subject matter is, I find it really scary. I find it quite scary. So, Pet Sematary. The modern movie that came out, I think 2019 or 2020, not a fan, hey? Not a fan. They changed so much in that film. They changed all the characters around. The only thing I like about that film is the very, very end shot, that last piece. And that's I think, is far worse than the original 80s film. Go and watch it, you'll see what I mean. But in this book, the 1980s film is a really, really close match for this. It's kind of almost word for word. Whereas the modern film of this particular book is not. They've taken a lot of poetic license. But the book itself is wonderful. It is a very frightening story about bringing people back from the dead and making really, really bad choices. And so this, to me, is my absolute favorite Stephen King book of the bunch. So guys, there's my Stephen King collection. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I would like to know, what is your favorite Stephen King book and why? So I'd like you to comment, but please don't write me huge, big, long essays. It's just Stephen King, guys. Come on, don't get excited. You know, this is not Dan Brown we're talking about. God help us. Stephen King, favorite book. Why is it your favorite book? You know who I am. I'm from Tabby Tarot Book Chat, and I will see you next month for some more Book Chat. Bye.